And when I say 1, 2, 3, stupidity, you are there. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3, stupidity! Unbelievably so. And the book is launched. And you can see for sure that all our panelists are actually here. No one's been imprisoned between the time the notices went out and today's forum.
Over the last week, I think Tuan Chai doesn't have enough time to include it in his book. So I think there's enough material in the last month to produce the third book for his unbelievably stupid statements. I'll just read some headlines of Malaysia will run out of prime ministers if Najib quits over graft allegations. Anti-corruption conference, not the right venue to talk about 2.6 billion donation. Minister tells the TI president. IACC, International Anti-Corruption Commission critics were possessed, says Kunan. The civil service is serious in fighting graft, says Chief Secretary. This one's good. Minister blames poor Bersih signage for billing boo-boo. MACC says faces no interference in Prime Minister probe. There will be no IACC, International Anti-Corruption Conference here if Putrajaya not against graft. Minister tells anti-graft meet there is God, mustn't worry. MECC says Malaysia critics at IACC may not have all the facts. And I think yesterday had one of the best ones. You know, the reason why our internet speed is on average slow in Malaysia is because you guys are cheapskate. You all choose the cheap package, of course slow lah. How But seriously, on a more serious note, all these are coming up because we probably have the biggest of all scandals by far in the history of Malaysia. But this outpaces anything else that we have ever seen, such that the amount of cover-up they have to do, or the amount of ridiculous cover-up they have to do in order to cover up this 1MDB and this 2.6 billion stuff, results in all this nonsense that we read today. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole 1MDB story, but I'll just go through one little segment on how your money via 1MDB has gone out for God knows what reason. Some of you may have read it, but I'll explain it here because it's a little bit technical. It's just over 2 loans that 1MDB took. They took 2 loans in May and October 2012, each worth US dollars 1.75 billion. So that works out to $3.5 billion of loans. The purpose of the loans was to acquire 2 power stations in Malaysia, power companies in Malaysia, Tanjung and Genting Sanyan. Now, when they took the 3.5 billion loans, the funny thing, of course, is the Malaysian government somehow didn't provide the guarantee at that point in time, which is a good thing. You know, you want loans, you go and get it on your own merit. But instead, they went to Abu Dhabi and got their investment company to provide the guarantee. International Petroleum Investment Corporation. So IPIC provided the guarantee for 3.5 billion. Fair enough, some foreign government thinks that our Malaysian company is so good, they want to provide the guarantee. Very good. But there were conditions. So the conditions was that 40% of the cash must be parked with IPIC. Oh, so you provide guarantee, I get to use only 60% of the cash. Okay, 1.4 billion. Now, the interesting thing also on this loan, it was arranged by Goldman Sachs. Okay, the root way of looking at it, Goldman Sachs, we are effed. You know, they charged us close to $300 million to arrange these 2 loans, which is approximately 10%, 9%. You know, all our other bonds, whether by Tenaga Nasional, by MAS before, by other countries like us, Uruguay, Mexico, they pay at the most 0.2 to 1%. We paid 9+%. 300 million. So 1.4 plus 0.3. That's 1.7 million gone. Then besides having to put a deposit with IPIC, we have to give them options to buy 49% of the companies, the power companies that we want to buy, Tanjong and Genting Sanyin. So we very generously provide them options. Okay, you give the guarantee, I give you options. When I list my company in the future, you get to buy 49% of these companies at a certain price. So it's not free, but at a certain price. So the options is a benefit, it has a value, but they still have to pay to buy. Except the IPO didn't happen. The IPO didn't happen because they bought these power stations at too high a price. They couldn't list the power stations at a price higher than what they bought. They were planning to list it at a price lower than what they bought, which is ridiculous. That is the biggest ever value destruction acquisition exercise you can have. You buy for 12 billion, you can only list it for 10 billion. So they couldn't list it. So they couldn't list it. One of the things they have to do to still try and list it was to get rid of the options. So they decided, hey, I know we gave you the options before, but with your options, it complicates my IPO. So I have to terminate the options. Now, because there's a termination clause in the options, they decided to terminate the options and they have to pay IPIC to terminate the options. Which is okay. You want to pay to terminate the options. How much do you pay to terminate the options? Now, Wall Street Journal exposed that they paid $993 million US dollars. That's about 1 billion. Okay? Let's take it as 1 billion. Okay? So, that money, where did it come from? Now, if you look through the audited accounts of 1MDB, 2014, mine looks like kiam chai now, the salted vegetable. You still discover new things, huh? I just did recently. So, that money came from, supposedly from Cayman Islands. Remember they had some dodgy funds parked in Cayman Islands, don't know with who. We always, at least I always accuse that there's actually no money there, proof that you have money there and stuff like that. But they said, God. So it's shown in the accounts, they redeemed half of it, 1.22 billion. It's supposed to be 2.3 billion. They redeemed half of it, 1.22 billion. They said the most of it, which is that 1 billion, went to pay for these options. So actually there was money immediately redeemed, immediately used to pay the options. Okay, never mind, let's put that aside. They paid 1 billion. So 1.7, just now 1.7, plus 1 billion, that's 2.7 billion of the 3.5 billion used, borrowed, has been used. Except, they took another loan from Deutsche Bank, a consortium of 5 banks led by Deutsche Bank. They took a loan of $975 million. Now, the purpose of taking this loan, and this is public information because it was reported last year in September when the loan was taken, okay, to repay the options that were being terminated with IPIC. So that's 975 million, that's almost like another 1 billion. So 1.7 plus 1 billion plus 1 billion, that gives you 3.7 billion. They borrowed 3.5 billion, they have paid out 3.7. And I went to check the IPIC's financial statements, which was deposited with the London Stock Exchange. So 2014 December financial statements. And in the statements, it's very clearly stated, 1MDB, despite all the payments that has been made, still owe them $481 million. So in total, after netting off everything, after taking a 3.5 billion loan, and it's still outstanding, they have already paid out in excess of $649 million. And they still owe that $3.5 billion. So if I didn't take the loan, I will have more money than if I take the loan. How? I don't know whether you follow my maths. I had it written down nicely in a chart form in my statement. But how is it that you borrowed $3.5 billion instead of having $3.5 billion now with me in assets or whatever, I actually lost 4.2 billion. Now, the reason for it, part of the reason for the excessive number is because of their round-tripping exercise. Actually, there's no 1 billion used to pay the options. There's only 1 billion. Why is it got 2 billion come up? You would notice if you read the accounts, the second 1 billion that I talked about, okay, the one from Deutsche Bank, it wasn't reported in the audited accounts. Even though the audited accounts was signed off after the loan was taken, it wasn't reported. Why was it not reported? Very simple reason. If you report that 1 billion, I cannot prove that I got that 1 billion from the Cayman's money. So the reality is the Cayman's money which originated so-called from PetroSaudi, no more, gone. Gone to Good Star, gone to Jolo, gone to whoever that Jolo buy handbags for. Gone, 1 billion. So they needed to cover up, and that's what happens when you try and cover up, and that's the big gaping hole there. But even if you take away 1 billion, okay, so take away back 1 billion, so it's 4.2, that works out to 3.2. Okay, you borrow 3.5 billion, you get only excess cash of 300 million. How does that still make sense? So the only reason you can think of why it doesn't make sense is because it's run by a bunch of crooks who designed the entire things to scam Malaysia. There's no other reason, there's no other explanation you can give. No, they scam you at every stage. They scam you when they bought the power stations at a too high a price. Part of that money goes back to Yayasan Rakyat Satu Malaysia in order to fund the elections. So they scam you when they first pay Tanjung or Genting Sanian. Okay? Then paid to Yayasan Rakyat Satu Malaysia, which you might think is a government yayasan, but it's not. You go to SSM and check Yayasan Rakyat Satu Malaysia, the shareholder is Datuk Sri Najib Razak. Okay? It is him. Him and who? Him and the former private personal confidential secretary, Dato' Alina, who passed away in the helicopter crash. Just two of them, shareholder for Yayasan Rakyat Satu Malaysia. Okay, so they scam you when they buy power stations too expensive. Now, they took a loan to buy this power station. They scam you when they pay 300 million to Goldman Sachs. Why? Why is it so high? Is it Goldman so stupid going to charge you so high? You think they want to charge you so high, they took all the 9%? No. How did they do it? I sell bonds. Okay, I sell bonds to, I don't know, Dr. Subramaniam there. Okay, he paid me at a discount. What I do is okay, let me retell the story. This is a bit complicated. Let me just finish the story. Basically, Dato' Saifuddin wants to raise 3.5 billion, okay, but he wants to make a cut in between. Okay, so he tells me he will give a discount of 9%. Okay, and Goldman charge it as a fee. He will buy everything back at 9%. He buy it back himself at a 9% discount and then resell it at only a 3% discount and makes a 6% cut. So part of the money is already taken by a middleman. Okay, you tell me, all the funds out there complain, how come this 1MDB bonds when it was first issued, I never had a chance to buy it at such big discount or such favorable interest rate. It was all pao ka liao by one person who then sold it in the secondary market, straight away make a profit. So they scam you when they took the loan, and even after they took the loan, they took a guarantee and they scam you there again. At every stage of the chain where they raise money or they use money, they scam you. And I can say, I will only end by saying, this hole cannot be covered. Datuk Sri Najib asked for 6 months. He asked for 6 months when it was January. He asked for 6 months when it was March. He asked for 6 months when it was June. And he asked for 6 months again recently in September. He will carry on asking for 6 months because the hole cannot be covered. Okay? And he may remain as the Prime Minister, unfortunately, okay, because he holds all the wheels of power. But he will never be able to solve 1MDB anytime in the near future, near to medium future. Cannot solve. Because the hole is just so big and all the chains of money flow now are all being watched very closely. Now, to do all this Ponzi scheme, shifting money around, covering up holes here and there, you need to shift big money around. Now, unlike the past where they were shifting without anyone noticing, nowadays anything that moves is being noticed in 1MDB. And I think this, in the next best scenario, the best scenario is we get rid of Najib immediately. The next best scenario where we are unable to get rid of Najib is for this problem to continue to persist, for us to be able to extract the most political mileage out of it. I mean, it sounds very, 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 what do you call it, calculative, Machiavellian, whatever you want to call it. But it is the only way for us to translate this message to the people out there, especially in the rural areas, to tell them this is the government you elected. It is time for change in the next general elections. Thank you.